Imagine a conversation that feels less like an interview and more like a glimpse into the future. On one side, we have Joe Rogan, the world's biggest podcaster, known for asking the kind of raw, unfiltered questions that make every guest open up. And on the other side, Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Meta, a man who holds the power to shape how billions of people connect, work, and even live in the years ahead. When these two sat across the table, the discussion wasn't about small things. It wasn't just about social media or profits or new apps. This was a deep dive into the future of humanity itself, a future where artificial intelligence and virtual reality aren't just tools, but extensions of our daily lives. Joe, Mark, do you really believe that AI and VR will make human life better? Or are we just building a world that traps people in an artificial reality? And Mark's response instantly set the tone for the entire conversation. He said, technology has always been a tool. The real question isn't whether AI is good or bad. The question is, how do we choose to use it? Think about that for a second. AI has the potential to automate jobs, create new industries, and completely change the way we work. At the same time, it can make life incredibly convenient, from healthcare that predicts illness before it happens to education that's customized for every single person. Then there's the metaverse. Zuckerberg painted it as more than just a video game or a virtual hangout spot. He described it as an entirely new universe, where you could attend concerts with your friends without leaving your house, or even travel to another country without ever stepping on a plane. In today's video, we're going to break this podcast down step by step. We'll uncover what Joe asked, what Mark revealed, and why their conversation might just change the way you think about your own future. So if you care about technology, your career, your relationships, and where humanity is headed, stick with me until the end. Because the insights you're about to hear could reshape the way you see the world. So let's dive into the first big theme of this podcast: artificial intelligence and the future of humanity. Joe Rogan wasted no time getting straight to the point. He asked Mark a question that many of us have in the back of our minds. Are we building something that will help humanity, or are we creating a monster that we won't be able to control? And you could see Zuckerberg pause for a moment, because this isn't a simple yes or no kind of question. His response was measured but powerful. He said every new technology in history has had the potential for good and for harm. Fire could cook food and keep us warm, but it could also burn down villages. The printing press spread knowledge, but also misinformation. AI is no different. The outcome depends on how responsibly we guide it. Now think about that for a second. Right now, artificial intelligence is already part of our daily lives, often in ways we don't even notice. When Netflix recommends you a show, that's AI. When Google Maps reroutes you in traffic, that's AI. Even when your phone's camera automatically enhances your photos, that's AI at work. But what Zuckerberg and Rogan were really talking about is the next level of AI. We're heading into a world where AI won't just assist us, it might outperform us. Imagine self-driving trucks replacing millions of drivers. Imagine AI doctors diagnosing patients faster and more accurately than humans. Imagine entire movies being written, directed, and animated by AI. Joe pushed him here, asking bluntly, don't you think people are scared because AI might take away their jobs, their purpose, their role in society? And honestly, that's the heart of the fear most of us feel. What happens when machines can do what we do, but faster, cheaper, and without needing sleep? Zuckerberg didn't shy away from this. He admitted that job displacement is real, but he flipped the perspective. He argued that every industrial revolution has created short-term disruption, but long-term growth. He reminded Joe that before electricity, millions of people worked as candle makers or lamplighters. When electricity spread, those jobs disappeared, but entirely new industries were born: electric companies, appliance manufacturers, and later software and electronics. He believes the same will happen with AI. Yes, certain jobs will vanish, repetitive tasks, data entry, routine decision-making, but new roles will emerge: AI trainers, ethicists, engineers, and creators who use AI as a partner rather than a replacement. Joe, of course, wasn't convinced so easily. He asked, but Mark, what happens to the millions of people caught in the middle? The truck driver who can't just become an AI engineer overnight? The factory worker who doesn't have the money to go back to school? This was one of the most human moments in the conversation. Zuckerberg acknowledged that this transition won't be easy. He admitted that governments, schools, and companies have a responsibility to retrain workers and provide safety nets. But he also said something that really stuck with me. The biggest mistake we can make is to resist technology out of fear, because it's coming anyway. The real challenge is, how do we prepare ourselves, our families, and our societies to use it wisely? Now let's bring this back to you, the viewer. Think about your own life. Where do you see AI creeping in? Maybe it's your job, maybe it's in your home, maybe it's in the way you consume information. The truth is, AI isn't just coming for some of us, it's coming for all of us. And the people who thrive in this new era won't be the ones who resist it. They'll be the ones who learn to ride the wave. Zuckerberg also talked about AI's potential for solving massive global problems. He mentioned healthcare. Imagine an AI that could analyze millions of medical scans in seconds and spot diseases before a human doctor could. Imagine personalized education where every student gets a lesson plan designed just for them, adapting in real time to their strengths and weaknesses. But Joe, playing devil's advocate, brought up the darker side. He asked, what about control? What about the possibility of governments or corporations using AI to manipulate people, to control what they see, what they think, even how they behave? This is where the conversation got heavy. Zuckerberg admitted that yes, the risks are enormous. Deepfakes, misinformation, surveillance, these are already real issues. He argued that regulation is necessary, but it has to be smart regulation, not just panic-driven ban. And here's the quote that really hit hard. We can't uninvent AI. It's here. The only choice we have is whether we build it responsibly or irresponsibly. Joe sat back, clearly impressed, but still skeptical. And honestly, that's the perfect balance. Optimism and caution, hope and fear. So what can we take away from this part of the conversation? AI is not some distant future, it's happening right now, and the choices we make today will determine whether it becomes humanity's greatest tool or its biggest. And maybe the most important lesson from Zuckerberg's words was this. Instead of asking, will AI replace us, we should be asking, how can we partner with AI to become better versions of ourselves? Because like it or not, the future is coming. The only question is, are you ready for it? After discussing artificial intelligence, the conversation naturally shifted to another one of Zuckerberg's biggest bets on the future, the Metaverse. Now, if you've heard the word Metaverse before, chances are you've seen flashy headlines, memes, or maybe even some skepticism. But in this podcast, Zuckerberg tried to paint a very real, very human picture of what he believes the Metaverse could become. Joe asked him directly, Mark, a lot of people think the Metaverse is just people wearing goofy headsets, walking into walls in their living rooms. Why do you believe this is the future? Zuckerberg smiled and explained, the Metaverse is not just about gaming or gimmicks. It's about creating a more natural way for people to connect, no matter where they are in the world. Think about how communication has evolved. First we had letters, then telephones, then emails, then social media. Each step brought us closer together, but it also had limitations. A text can't capture body language. A video call can't make you feel like you're sitting across from someone. What Zuckerberg is chasing is the next leap. A digital environment so real, so immersive that it feels like you're physically present with another person, even if they're thousands of miles away. He gave example. Imagine walking into a virtual office where you can collaborate with your coworkers in 3D space. Instead of staring at flat boxes on a Zoom call, you could sit around a virtual table, write on a virtual whiteboard, and feel like you're actually in the same room. Or imagine attending a concert with your favorite artist. Not by watching a live stream on your phone, but by putting on a headset and standing in the middle of the crowd, dancing next to your friends, hearing the music. And Joe, of course, challenged him, but Mark, don't you think this will make people escape reality? Don't you worry that people will spend more time in this fake digital world than in the real one? This is a question a lot of us have. Are we building a better future or just a better distraction? Zuckerberg pushed back gently. He said, the metaverse isn't meant to replace real life. It's meant to make distance irrelevant. It's about bringing experiences to people who otherwise couldn't have them. The person who can't afford to travel, the student who can't attend a university in another country, the patient who can't physically visit a doctor. The metaverse is about expanding access. And honestly, when you think about it that way, it's not hard to see the potential. Imagine a kid in a remote village being able to sit inside a virtual science lab, watching molecules react in 3D right in front of them. Or someone in a wheelchair experiencing what it feels like to climb a mountain all through immersive technology. But Joe wasn't satisfied yet. He leaned forward and said, "That all sounds amazing. But what about control? Who owns this world? If Meta builds it, does Meta control everything inside it?" That was a heavy moment, because it gets to the core fear. If one company controls the metaverse, they don't just control ads or data, they control reality itself. Zuckerberg acknowledged the concern, saying that the metaverse has to be built more like the internet, decentralized, with open standards, not just a walled garden. He insisted that Meta can't and shouldn't own the entire space. But Joe, ever the skeptic, wasn't sure if people would believe that. And honestly, he has a point. Think about how much of our digital lives are already owned by a handful of corporations. If the metaverse becomes the next evolution of the internet, then who shapes the rule? Who decides what's allowed and what's not? Despite these concerns, Zuckerberg emphasized that the metaverse could solve real human problems. He described it as a place where work, education, healthcare, and entertainment all merge seamlessly, where distance, cost, and physical limitations are no longer barriers. But he also admitted something interesting: the technology isn't fully ready yet. Headsets are still clunky, graphics aren't perfect, motion sickness is still an issue for many users. He was honest in saying it might take 5, maybe even 10 years before the metaverse becomes mainstream, but when it does, it will feel as natural as picking up your phone today. And here's where Joe made perhaps his most important point in this part of the conversation. He said, "Mark, people are already struggling with social media addiction. They spend hours scrolling TikTok or Instagram. What happens when you give them an entire world to escape into?" Zuckerberg didn't deny it. He admitted that balance will be critical. He said tools must be built to encourage healthy use, not just endless engagement. But the truth is, and this is my personal reflection here, history shows that once a powerful technology exists, it's almost impossible to control how people use it. So maybe the real question isn't whether the metaverse will exist, but whether we as humans will know how to handle it. To me, the most striking thing about this whole part of the conversation was the clash of perspective. Zuckerberg sees opportunity, possibility, and a future where technology solves our biggest problems. Rogan sees risk, addiction, and a future where technology could strip away what makes us human. And somewhere in between those two views is where we all stand. Because whether you love it or fear it, the metaverse isn't just science fiction anymore. It's being built right now. And sooner or later, every one of us will have to decide, do we step inside or do we stay outside and watch the world change without it? One of the most emotional parts of this podcast came when Joe shifted the conversation from technology. He asked a question that cuts right to the heart of the issue. "Mark, if people spend more time in virtual spaces than in real ones, won't we lose something fundamental about being human?" That question hit hard because it's something we all feel deep down. Technology brings convenience, but it also brings distance. Social media already shows us this. We're more connected than ever, yet loneliness and anxiety are at an all-time high. Zuckerberg acknowledged this honestly. He admitted that yes, there is a real risk. People could overuse these tools and end up isolating themselves from real-world experiences. But he argued that the problem isn't the technology itself, it's how we use it. He said every tool in history can be used to bring people closer together or to pull them apart. The metaverse has to be built with human connection at its core. He gave an example: a family separated by continents being able to gather around a virtual dinner table, seeing each other in 3D, sharing laughs as if they were really together. For him, that's the dream, not replacing real life, but making distance irrelevant. Joe wasn't fully convinced. He pointed out the dark side. Kids already spend hours glued to screens. People doom scroll through feeds instead of talking to each other, and mental health issues are skyrocketing. He asked, do we really need another layer of digital immersion when people can't even handle the one they already have? And that's where the tension lies. On one side, you have Zuckerberg's optimism, the belief that these tools can bring families, friends, and communities closer. On the other, Rogan's skepticism, the fear that more technology could mean more disconnection, more addiction, more depression. What's clear is that the future of human connection won't be shaped by machines alone. It will be shaped by us, by the choices we make, by the boundaries we set, and by how we balance the digital world with the real one. Because at the end of the day, technology can simulate almost everything except genuine human love and presence. As the conversation moved forward, Joe Rogan asked the question that was hanging in the air the entire time. "Mark, do you understand just how much power you have?" It wasn't a technical question. It was a human one. Billions of people use Meta's platforms every single day. News spreads there. Revolutions have started there. Whole generations are being shaped by the algorithms behind Facebook and Instagram. And Joe wanted to know, what does it feel like to carry that kind of weight? Zuckerberg didn't deny it. He admitted almost somberly that the scale is enormous. When billions of people rely on your platforms to connect, it means every decision matters. If we get it wrong, the consequences aren't just business mistakes. They affect societies, even democracies. But Joe pressed harder. Who holds you accountable? Who makes sure you're not just steering the world in whatever direction you want? That's when the conversation turned to regulation. Zuckerberg said one company cannot and should not make these decisions alone. There have to be frameworks, laws, and public debates that guide how technology is used. Otherwise, yes, the risk of abuse is too high. Yet Joe pointed out a truth we all know. Governments move slow, technology moves fast. By the time politicians debate one issue, companies like Meta are already on the next frontier. AI, VR, or the Metaverse. So how do ordinary people keep up? Zuckerberg acknowledged that this is the real challenge. He said the only way forward is transparency, showing people how algorithms work, giving them choices about how their data is used, and making sure technology empowers rather than manipulates. Now, whether you trust him or not is another story. But here's what this entire discussion reveals. Power without responsibility is dangerous, and in today's world where AI can rewrite jobs and VR can reshape reality, responsibility isn't optional. It's everything. Joe ended this part with a reflection that really stuck with me. Technology is moving faster than our culture, our governments, and even our psychology. The question isn't whether it will change the world, it's whether people can adapt quickly enough to handle it. And that's where we leave this conversation today. Because the truth is, the future isn't waiting. AI is already here, shaping industries. The metaverse is being built as we speak. Decisions made by a handful of companies and individuals are going to affect billions. And each of us has to decide how we respond. Do we ignore it? Do we fear it? Or do we prepare ourselves to use it wisely? I'll leave you with this question. Do you believe these technologies will make our lives better, or will they make them more complicated? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the Joe Rogan, Mark Zuckerberg podcast, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Because whether we're ready or not, the future is already here.